The soldiers wrapped the soap in a towel to hide the marks of the beating. They quietly approached Leonard's bed, covered him with a blanket, and held him tightly. Then they began to vent their anger on him. Leonard repeatedly pleaded with them not to do anything, but no one listened. At that very moment, everyone began to vent their anger on him one by one. Even his only friend, James, silently joined in. That night, a cold shadow of humanity settled in Leonard's eyes, one he never forgot. After that, the smile vanished from Leonard's face. But why they did this? The story begins by showing a group of young men preparing to be trained as United States Marine Corps soldiers. The training is led by a sergeant known for being strict, harsh, and extremely disciplined, meaning only those with strong mental endurance can survive in this unit. That's when we are introduced to a soldier named James, though everyone calls him Joker. Living up to his nickname, Joker jokingly messes around while the sergeant is speaking to another recruit.
You, John Wayne? Is this me?
Who said that? Who the fuck said that?
The sergeant immediately storms over and punches him in the stomach to teach him a lesson. When asked about his motivation for joining the Corps, Joker casually replies that he wants to know what it feels like to kill someone. Hearing that, the sergeant orders him to scream as loudly as possible and show the face of a real killer. Among the many recruits, there is one young man named Leonard who constantly grins to himself, unintentionally making it seem as though he is mocking and underestimating the sergeant. Because of that, the sergeant orders him to wipe that smile off his face. Leonard turns out to be a rather slow and dim-witted young man. But the sergeant, who clearly has experience dealing with all kinds of recruits, already has his own methods for handling people like him. One of those methods involves choking Leonard until he is nearly out of breath. As a result, Leonard quickly loses his childish smile during his time in the unit.
Private Pile, you had best square your ass away and start shitting me Tiffany cufflinks, or I will definitely fuck you up.
2 weeks later, the recruits are finally able to march in formation properly and in sync. But when the sergeant orders them to pick up their rifles and place them on their left shoulders, Leonard once again makes a major mistake and earns himself another punishment. That night, the sergeant explains that the rifles in their hands are weapons that must be cared for at all times. Treated almost like a lover, they can never stop thinking about every second of the day. The recruits then lie on their beds while reciting a pledge to always protect and maintain their weapons. A few more days pass, and the recruits move on to physical training.
This is my rifle, this is my gun, this is for fun, and this is for fun.
Once again, Leonard shows his weakness and lack of stamina, unable to keep up with the brutal exercises that the other soldiers endure, and who ends up suffering because of it. Naturally, Leonard's fellow recruits, who are forced to work together to help him complete every stage of the training. As the squad leader, Joker is responsible for every slow learner in the group, and Leonard is by far the most troublesome recruit. Joker repeatedly has to explain and demonstrate all of their duties inside the barracks over and over again. Eventually, Leonard begins to show significant improvement thanks to Joker's guidance, allowing the sergeant to finally save some of his energy and high blood pressure for other problems. One night, the sergeant conducts a surprise inspection to check the discipline of his recruits. Once again, Leonard makes a careless mistake by forgetting to lock his personal locker. But that is not the real shock. Inside, the sergeant discovers something strictly forbidden in the barracks: a jelly donut Leonard secretly took from the mess hall. Tired of giving Leonard the same punishments again and again, the sergeant comes up with a new idea to force him to learn.
They're paying for it, you eat it.
From now on, every time Leonard makes a mistake, the entire platoon will be punished alongside him. At first, the others sympathize with Leonard, but over time they grow increasingly frustrated. Eventually, they all decide to teach him a lesson themselves by stuffing bars of soap into towels and brutally beating him together. After that night, Leonard suddenly begins acting strangely. He often sits in silence, staring blankly into space with empty eyes. Joker even catches him talking to his rifle, raising disturbing questions about what is happening inside Leonard's mind. The good side is that Leonard truly changes into a disciplined soldier. He even passes his shooting test with excellent results, and eventually all of them officially graduate as Marines ready to be deployed into war. One night, after everyone has gone to sleep, Joker is shocked to discover Leonard sitting alone in the bathroom, holding his rifle.
Right shoulder!
Leonard suddenly starts shouting military commands and performing drill movements, waking everyone up. When the sergeant arrives, Leonard looks completely insane. But the sergeant ignores the warning signs and firmly orders him to lower the rifle and return to bed. Suddenly, Leonard shoots the sergeant before turning the gun on himself and blowing his own head off. It can be concluded that Leonard's mentality was never strong enough to endure such brutal military training. Instead of making him tougher, the pressure pushed him into severe depression, eventually driving him to commit such a tragic act. Years later, Joker is now serving in Vietnam as a military journalist whose job is to report on the conditions and situations happening on the battlefield. Ironically, the area where he is stationed does not feel like an active war zone at all. Joker and his friend Rafterman can still casually sit by the roadside drinking coffee without worrying about sudden attacks, missiles falling from the sky, or any life-threatening tension. The only dangerous moments they experience come from ordinary street crime, like when Rafterman's camera gets stolen by a mugger obsessed with kung fu movies. Later, Joker and Rafterman return to headquarters for a meeting with their superior. During the briefing, their commander orders Joker to write dramatic news stories so the rest of the world will believe Vietnam is suffering from endless chaos, bloodshed, and horrifying warfare every single day. The goal is to make America appear like heroic saviors who came to rescue the country. But in reality, the situation in Vietnam is not nearly as catastrophic as the propaganda claims. Many local civilians continue living their daily lives normally and peacefully. Ironically, the people causing the most chaos are often the American soldiers themselves. Realizing that the war reports are basically propaganda, Joker initially refuses to exaggerate his stories. But since the order comes from his superior, whose orders come from higher officials and eventually from the government itself, Joker has no real power to resist and is forced to obey. Then, during a fireworks celebration at night, panics suddenly erupt when Viet Cong forces attack their base. Or at least that is what they are told. Whether the attack is real or manipulated is unclear, but Joker is forced to fire his full metal jacket rounds to help defend the compound from enemy infiltration. The next day, their commander announces that the situation has become much worse. According to official reports, the Viet Cong rebels have already taken control of several areas. Joker and Rafterman are then sent to the front lines to cover the war directly. Their orders are simple. If they cannot find enough brutality and horror to satisfy the media narrative, then they are allowed to exaggerate, dramatize, or even invent parts of the story to make it more interesting for audiences around the world. They travel by helicopter and meet a soldier named Doorgunner, a disturbingly cruel and inhuman man who casually shoots at farmers, women, and even children who have absolutely nothing to do with the war. After landing safely, Joker continues traveling toward the front lines on foot. Along the way, he discovers the bodies of Vietnamese civilians who were supposedly massacred by the NVA, or North Vietnamese Army. Many of the victims are ordinary workers such as teachers, village officials, and tax officers. Soon after, a commanding officer questions Joker about the contradiction of wearing a helmet with the words "Born to Kill," while also wearing a peace symbol pin. To the officer, the two symbols completely oppose each other. He warns Joker to stop joking around and take his role as a Marine seriously. When Joker finally reaches the battlefield, he unexpectedly reunites with an old friend from boot camp nicknamed Cowboy. There is also a senior soldier named Animal Mother, who immediately dislikes Joker, leading to tension and verbal arguments between them. In truth, life on the battlefield is not constantly intense or terrifying. There are moments where the soldiers behave casually, even joking around with the corpses of dead Viet Cong fighters. The next day, the unit begins pushing deeper into enemy territory to pressure the Viet Cong forces. During the mission, Doorgunner finally receives what feels like karma for his cruelty. Because of his arrogance, he walks carelessly at the front of the formation and becomes the first soldier killed when a surprise attack begins. The enemy turns out to be hiding inside an abandoned building. Thanks to their superior numbers and firepower, Joker and the others eventually force the enemy fighters to retreat. After successfully surviving the battle, the soldiers are rewarded with the opportunity to appear in front of a television news crew covering the war. The soldiers all begin sharing their personal experiences from the battlefield. Most of them claim that the American military's involvement in Vietnam is simply about helping the country defeat the rebels. And if innocent civilians like women or children become casualties, they insist it happens unintentionally because of the mental pressure and stress they endure during war. During their free time, and as a way to celebrate surviving another battle, the soldiers often invite Vietnamese women to entertain them in ways that are already obvious to everyone watching.
All fucking niggers. Hey, I won't be long, I'll skip the foreplay.
It reflects one of the darker sides of war and the behavior of some foreign soldiers. They came claiming to protect civilians, fight for justice, and defend what is right, but good intentions should also be accompanied by good behavior. Still, people make their own choices. But no matter what, there is always something watching every action humans take. Eventually, the frontline troops arrive at a city believed to be a stronghold for the Viet Cong rebels. Not long after entering the area, one of the soldiers is killed by a landmine, leaving Joker and the others visibly shaken. Another soldier is then sent alone to scout ahead, which turns out to be a terrible decision. Enemy fire suddenly erupts, but at least the attack reveals the enemy's hiding position. Seeing his comrades die, the ruthless animal mother charges forward alone carrying his heavy machine gun. His reckless attack gives the others an opportunity to advance and enter the building where the enemy sniper is hiding. While trying to contact headquarters for backup, Cowboy, Joker's old friend from boot camp, is suddenly shot and killed. With no reinforcements coming, the squad has no choice but to continue pushing forward on their own. Once inside the building, Joker finally gets the chance to shoot a lone Viet Cong fighter. But unlike the others, Joker still has some humanity and hesitation left in him, causing him to freeze for a moment. As a result, the sniper attacks first before eventually being wounded by another Marine. As they approach the dying enemy soldier, they discover that the sniper is actually a young Vietnamese woman. In her final moments, she quietly prays and begs them to end her suffering. The person chosen to do it is Joker. Even though Joker wants to solve things peacefully and still clings to his remaining compassion, the brutal reality of war forces him to become exactly what the military trained him to be: a cold-blooded killer without mercy. After surviving the battle, Joker and the others continue advancing against the Viet Cong. But in the end, history unfolds exactly as it did in real life. America ultimately loses the war in Vietnam. The film ends on a strange yet unforgettable note.